Hey there, this is a very long overdue continuation to my attempt at commemorating my favorite Diablo style RPGs, so without any more delay, I'll get started. This time I want to talk about an RPG called Nox. Nox takes place in the world of Ix, which is basically your typical fantasy world, with the archetype fantasy creatures you would expect, such as ogres, necromancers, undead, and etc. But still, the world does have an overall unique feel to it with its own special quirks, and there certainly are some unique enemies to fight. Nox is a fairly linear game that doesn't involve too much deviation from the main quests, but this is totally suiting for the type of game that it is, in my opinion. It's incredibly fast-paced, fun, fluid, and you'll constantly be killing enemies. Just incredibly satisfying combat. It does, though, still have a very well put together story that's easy to get immersed in, with excellent voice acting for the characters that really helps to flesh them out, and the world as a whole. I would show you some examples of what I'm talking about, but unfortunately my audio recording software has some issues with this old game and won't record any of the sounds from it whatsoever. The music in this game is pretty good and definitely suits it, you can tell, but it's basically fantasy music that's not too memorable, but still very solid music that definitely helps to get you into the game more. What I really loved about this game is how unique the three different classes feel, and the creativity put into each of them. There's the wizard, conjurer, and warrior. As you would probably guess, the wizard and warrior are both dedicated to one type of combat, the wizard magic and the warrior physical, representing opposite extremes to each other, while the conjurer is a balance of the two extremes. I found each class incredibly fun to play. The warrior is arguably the best class, with incredibly useful skills that can silence all nearby enemies, pull enemies near you, stun them, or make you charge at enemies. He also can kill things very efficiently with his melee weapons. This was obviously intended for the warrior to be the strongest class, since when you play through the game as the warrior, you will encounter a fair amount more enemies than you would as one of the other classes. The wizard is probably the hardest class to be, but the most skill required to master, being like a glass cannon that should avoid getting hit at all costs, and also being almost wholly reliant on magic, which tends to run out really quick. The conjurer was definitely the most enjoyable class for me, personally, as he felt the most expansive, with the most gameplay options available to him. You can summon and charm creatures, use a variety of different bows, and had basically as much spells to use as the wizard on top of it, which were not mediocre in the least either. Nox was a really awesome game that I must have played through over a dozen times due to its incredibly satisfying and creative combat that does actually require a decent amount of skill to master, regardless of the class. It's really a shame they never released a sequel for the game, for whatever reason that may be. I know it has something to do with the fact that EA bought out Westwood after they made Nox, and they failed a lot from there, I guess. But if you're someone who has yet to check out this game, then yeah, I really recommend that you do. Just a really awesome game that's definitely worth checking out. So with that said, later.
Bye.